Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Terrebonne Parish School Board meeting now called to order July 5th, 2022. Time now is 6 p.m. We have, we call to order item 2, invocation by Mr. Roger DeHart.
Please stand. Lord, support each of us in this meeting. We ask your divine help in the difficult task of representing the wishes of others. The issues we will address tonight are many, and the solutions may not always be easy. Dear God, help us as we serve the school system as elected officials and be with us tonight and forever. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. DeHart. Before we have roll call, we have a moment of silence.
Please have a moment of silence for the following individual who has recently passed away. Patricia Armand, retired school teacher. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Trahan. Item number 4, roll call.
Mr. Michael LaGuard.
Here.
Mr. Gregory Harding.
Here.
Mr. Matthew Ford.
Here.
Mrs. Debbie Benoit. Here. Mrs. Stacy Soleil. Mr. Clyde Hamner.
Here.
Mr. Roger Dale DeHart.
Here.
Dr. Maybelle Trahan.
Here.
And Mr. Dane Voisin. Mr. President, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Brunet. Item number 5, approval of minutes of school board meeting on June 7, 2022. Recommendation that the board approve the minutes of the school board meeting June 7, 2022 as recorded.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. DeHart,
Second.
second by Ms. Benoit. Anyone in the audience like to discuss that recommendation? Mr. DeHart,
No, sir.
Ms. Benoit,
No, sir.
Mr. Hammond.
I just have a quick question. In the minutes, on page 24, there was a motion made by Mr. Ford and seconded by me to table an item to the July 19th meeting, committee meetings, but yet it was brought in June. And it's an item to be voted on tonight. I'm just wondering if, how that would, do we need to correct that?
Need to be corrected? I don't think so.
I followed the action of the board meeting for that night. That's in the proceedings.
I don't think so.
So, I mean, if the motion that was made was to table it to the actual of the July 19th committee meeting, you would leave the minutes as is. If it came up beforehand or it's coming up in another way tonight, that's what it is. But if the actual motion
So it doesn't need to be corrected?
No.
Okay.
Okay. Any other board member? A bad injection? Hearing none, so ordered. Item number 6, announcement, 7/19, 5 o'clock, Education, Technology, and Policy Committee, Building, Food, and Service Chairman's Committee, Finance and Sun Section 16, Land Committee, Executive Committee. 8/2, 6 p.m., regular school board meeting. Item number 7, citizen concern, Ms. Vicky Coche, update on a federal threat to withhold lunch money from low-income children in public schools unless boys are allowed in girls' bathrooms.
Hi, Vicki Kluche, Schriever. Thank y'all for letting me come tonight. I'm here to provide an update on a serious threat to our public school children. In June, the United States Department of Agriculture's Food and Nutrition Services, or FNS, announced that the National School Lunch Program for low-income students would no longer be available unless state and local agencies that receive that funding agree to a pro-transgender interpretation of Title IX. That would mean that boys have full right to use formerly private girls' bathrooms, showers, and locker rooms at school. So technically, legally, what do we know? I don't know much because I'm not a legal person, but from what I understand, We know that expanding the concept of discrimination based on the basis of sex to now include gender identity and sexual orientation imposes a new and unlawful regulatory measure on schools receiving federal lunch money. We also know that this mandate circumvented the requirements of the Administrative Procedures Act by literally rewriting the law in Title IX and the Food and Nutrition Act. I provided you guys a copy of a letter signed by 26 state attorneys general writing Joe Biden asking that this whole thing be withdrawn and rescinded. And I bring up the legal aspect of this because there's a problem when there is a declaration made such as this, a press release. It's gone out on the news, it's going out to everybody. And the problem is that many states and school districts see this and they are afraid. And so they immediately start preparing for compliance. What we are asking is that we immediately start preparing for non-compliance to this. So what are we going to do? Where do we stand? Will we be set apart from this awful abuse of children? Will we, the adults, protect our children from radical ideology that does nothing but harm our children and threatens to punish them by withholding food? We spoke with a staff member from Attorney General Landry's office Thursday, and he assured us that Landry would immediately file a lawsuit, an injunction, against the Biden administration if they try to force the issue regarding school lunch funding. He mentioned multiple other states would also join in, and the goal would be to get it to the Supreme Court. So what are we to do? You know, Thomas Paine said, quote, "It is the duty of the patriot to protect his country from its government," end quote. And this is where we find ourselves.
Excuse me, 3 minutes are up. If anybody.
Motion to extend.
Moved by Mr. Hamlin, second by Mr.
Unanimous.
Ford. Anyone else would like to discuss that, that motion? Maker and a second. Any other board member? Hearing none, so ordered. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So our question to you is, what are we going to do right now? We propose that Terrebonne School District proceed proactively, and to do this by, number one, informing parents of two things. Informing parents of the Biden administration's and the USDA's new policy, effective August 3rd, 2022, that will deprive students of meals at school in order to force public schools to let boys and girls bathrooms. We also propose informing parents of the current letter asking for withdrawal filed by Attorney General Landry and the coalition of 26 state attorneys, calling on Biden to withdraw this policy. Parents don't know what's going on. They don't know about this. And we don't want this to hit them between the eyes and all of a sudden, you know, it's chaos. So they need to know. We'd like for them to know from you. Number two, we propose that publicly stating your opposition to this policy to parents, teachers, and the taxpayers of this parish. They need to hear from you. They need to know where their school board stands. And three, passing a resolution agreeing to hold and pause any decisions on this matter and allow the Attorney General of Louisiana to adjudicate this issue to the fullest extent, that is, to the Supreme Court if necessary. We have faith in Superintendent Orgeron and to our school board members that you have uncommon courage in these perilous times. As I said last time, this may well be the single most important decision you make in your tenure on this board. Our children are counting on you. We, the parents, grandparents, teachers, citizens, the folks who elected you are counting on you. Let's be the premier school board of the country. Let our light shine to all the other school boards that they can have courage too. As for us, we say we're going to do the righteous thing, and that's what we're asking of you. Thank you.
Mr. Ford?
I'd like to make a comment. Ms. Cloutier, thank you. Thank you for coming in. I don't see, oh, there you are. Thank you for coming in and addressing this issue. I know you've been advocating against it for a while, and I'm on board with you as well. I'm just gonna say this, and I'll go on record. I'll say it here. I'll say it on Facebook. I'll go talk to Joe Biden myself. Federal government needs to stay out of education. Our forefathers, they wrote this Constitution knowing that the overreach of the government was a concern that they had and we should all have. And this is just one of those times when they're actually trying to overstep their boundaries. As far as I'm concerned, we don't need their money. We'll find a way. And I think we as a state, not just as a district, but we as a state are strong enough collectively to come together and find a means of feeding our kids and, you know, keeping schoolhouses safe for everyone the way they were intended, the way they should be. So I'm not going to speak for anyone else on the board, but I do agree with you. We need to be proactive and we need to take a stand. Not just us as Terrebonne Parish, but as a state of Louisiana. And I'm very impressed with Jeff Landry and what he's been doing lately. And, you know, if he's watching this or he hears about this, come on down to Terrebonne Parish. You know, we'd love to have you at a school board meeting, and we'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Mr. DeHart.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Well, many years that I've been serving on the school board, I've always kept children first. Any decision we ever had to modify, change, was always in the best interest of the student. I don't care who the President of the United States is. I respect the position and the person. I don't like to be threatened on Facebook. They want to replace all Niners up here. If we're not doing the job you expect of us, it's time for all of us to go. I'm not ready to go. And I've always fought for everything that I could to give the kids the best education and not discriminate against anyone. So I will never, that president can walk through that door right now and I will tell him in person, I'm not voting for this thing. It's the most ridiculous thing I've heard, and this is my 32nd year on the school board. I've heard many bad things. Nothing as horrible as this. So keep that in mind. Thank you.
Ms. Benoit.
Thank you, Mr. Harding. I want to thank you also, Ms. Cloutier, for coming and being vigilant about this particular issue, continually bringing it before the board. I support everything that you said. I think we should be proactive, and I think we should communicate this to parents. As a board, we need to discuss this and how we're going to go about that. But I do have a question for the superintendent. Typically, what I've always known is that if there are mandates placed on the board and there's no money that follows those mandates, we're not required to comply, typically. So, in other words, if they want us to have gender-neutral bathrooms or whatever, if we don't have the money to comply with that, we should not be somehow, punished or withheld from the free lunch program because of that. But I also think we need to make a stand on how we feel about this. There's no way that I want a boy to be in a girl's bathroom. We already had some issues with that in other districts, and I don't want to see that here. Thank you.
Any other comment? Mr. DeHart?
Thank you, Mr. Harding. I apologize for getting the second turn of this. I definitely am encouraging us to think about through the committee process to do something. But on a second note, in 1990, I got on this board. We used to have to transfer $2 million a year to offset costs for food service. If that's what we have to do again, we have the means to do it. We're not rich, we're not wealthy, but anytime you cut something out of a budget for the right reason, it's still there for the children. Because no child can learn without having a good meal in front of them. Some of them come to school and that might be the best meal they had that day. But all I'm saying is that we have a responsibility to educate, and whatever it means it takes. And many, many years, I think Mr. Harding and Ms. Benoit might remember some of this, because we just three longest sitting board members up here tonight. we did have to transfer money. And then whenever the free program came, it was a blessing. But guess what? We did some other good things in the classroom with the money that we used to spend, transferred from the general fund. So the public has been very supportive of us, and I just want to keep that in mind. Thank you, Mr. Hardy, and that's all I have.
Okay,
Thank
any
you.
other comments? Okay, item number 8, board committee meeting reports. 8A, Building, Food, and Service Transportation Committee, Mr. Dan Vizan.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Buildings, Food Service, and Transportation Committee met at 5 p.m. on Thursday, June 23rd, 2022, in the boardroom of the school board office with the following members: myself as chair, Mr. DeHart as vice chair. Also in attendance was Mr. Ford and Ms. Soleil, Superintendent-elect Bubba Ogeron, and members of his staff. Recommendation number 1, the committee recommends that the board enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, granting a servitude for the purposes of improved drainage on property previously declared surplus on March 8, 2022, measuring approximately 1.083 acres located at the rear of the Legion Fields Middle School site, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto, pending review and approval by the board attorney.
So moved.
So moved, Ms. Benoit.
Second.
Second, Dr. Trahan. Any public comments? Ms. Benoit?
No, sir.
Dr. Trahan? Any other board members? Yes, Mr. DeHart?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask the attorney a question, please.
Yes, sir.
Are we on legal grounds to donate property to the consolidated government?
It's a cooperative endeavor agreement for the use, and so, yeah, we will be able to do that. And we're taking a look at it right now because I think a little ditch is being added to it, but yes, we're all good.
Well, I know it's not in a bad spot, but drainage needs to be done. And we did endeavors to let them use property and stuff like that, but never give it to them.
Right.
And whenever this issue first came up, the parish government had an appraiser, they was going to get an appraiser of the value, and I don't know where that went.
We were looking at selling. I think the appraisal just came back so high that both parties decided to go about it this route.
Well, us 9 over here vote on that, not just the head person either.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeHart. Mr. Ford?
So my question was, you answered it, the appraisal came back rather high, so do they want the property? Would they like to take ownership of it without having to make that purchase? Because then we can talk as a committee and then, or as a board, and then we can discuss the idea of actually making the donation.
well, there's some issues there. You can't actually make a donation, so you'd have to do it via the cooperative endeavor agreement, which way they're going. So, to answer your other questions, I'm not sure. You know, I wasn't involved in the decision-making process of sale versus this. I was just told at one point we were going to do a sale. We're waiting on the appraisal. Then I was told, well, we're not doing a sale anymore. We're going to do it this way.
So
Can
this
you
is the
review it?
best case scenario without the sale, basically?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Any other board members? Any objections? Note, please, that Mr. DeHart objects. Hearing no further, the motion passes. Recommendation number 2, the committee recommends that the board issue a notice to proceed as per contractual agreement to Orchestrate LLC for plans and specifications for the demolition of the modular classroom building and 5 portable classroom buildings at Acadian Elementary School that were damaged by Hurricane Ida. Funds to be derived from FEMA reimbursement funds. Authorize the advertising of bids and or solicitation of quotes. Direct that any major project changes be reported to the Buildings, Food Service, and Transportation Committee prior to advertising for bids, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto.
So moved.
So moved, Dr. Trahan.
Second.
Mr. DeHart. Any public comments? Dr. Trahan?
No, sir.
Mr. DeHart? Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 3, the committee recommends that the board issue a notice to proceed as per contractual agreement to Orchestrate LLC for plans and specifications for the demolition of the modular classroom buildings at East Houma Elementary School that was damaged by Hurricane Ida. Funds to be derived from FEMA reimbursement funds. Authorize the advertising of bids and or solicitation of quotes. direct that any major project changes are reported to the Building, Food Service, and Transportation Committee prior to advertising for bids, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. So move, Mr. Dehart. Second, Ms. Benoit. Any public comments? Mr. Dehart? Ms. Benoit? Any other members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 4, the committee recommends that the board issue a notice to proceed as per contractual agreement to Orchestrate LLC for plans and specifications for the demolition of a portable classroom building at Legion Park Elementary School that was damaged by Hurricane Ida. Funds to be derived from FEMA reimbursement funds, authorize the advertising of bids and/or solicitation of quotes, direct that any major project changes be reported to the Building Service, Food Service, and Transportation Committee prior to advertising for bids, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto.
So moved.
So moved, Mr. Harding. Second, Mr. Dehart. Any public comments? Mr. Harding? Mr. Dehart? Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 5, the committee recommends that the board issue a notice to proceed as per contractual agreement to Orchestrate LLC for plans and specifications for the demolition of 5 portable classroom buildings at LaCache Middle School that were damaged by Hurricane Ida. Funds to be derived from FEMA reimbursement funds. Authorize the advertising of bids and/or solicitation of quotes. Direct that any major project changes be reported to the Buildings, Food Service, and Transportation Committee prior to advertising for bids, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto.
So moved.
So move, Dr. Traha.
Second.
Second, Ms. Benoit. Any public comments? Dr. Traha?
No, sir.
Ms. Benoit?
No, sir.
Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 6, the committee recommends that the board issue a notice to proceed as per contractual agreement to Orchestrate LLC for plans and specifications for building repairs at LaCache Middle School. Funds to be derived from FEMA reimbursement funds. Authorize the advertising of bids. Direct that any major project changes be reported to the Buildings, Food Service, and Transportation Committee prior to advertising for bids, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto.
So moved.
So move, Ms. Benoit. Second, Dr. Traha. Any public comments? Ms. Benoit, Dr. Traha? Any board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 7, the committee recommends that the board issue a notice to proceed as per contractual agreement to Orchestrate LLC for plans and specifications for building repairs at East Homa Elementary School. Funds to be derived from FEMA reimbursement funds. Authorize the advertising of bids. Direct that any major project changes be reported to the Buildings, Food Service, and Transportation Committee prior to advertising for bids, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto.
So moved.
So moved, Dr. Traha. Second, Mr. Dehart. Any public comments? Dr. Traha?
No, sir.
Mr. Dehart? Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 8, the committee recommends that the board issue a notice to proceed as per contractual agreement to Orchestrate LLC for plans and specifications for buildings repairs at East Street School. Funds to be derived from FEMA reimbursement funds. Authorize the advertising of bids. Direct that any major project changes be reported to the Buildings, Food Service, and Transportation Committee prior to advertising for bids, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto.
So moved.
So move, Ms. Benoit. Second, Mr. Harding. Any public comments? Ms. Benoit?
No, sir.
Mr. Harding? Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 9. The committee recommends that the board issue a notice to proceed as per contractual agreement to Craig Aber, AIA, for plans and specifications for repairs to athletic facilities at Ellender Memorial High School. Funds to be derived from FEMA reimbursement funds. Authorize the advertising of bids. Direct that any major project changes be reported to the Buildings, Food Service, and Transportation Committee prior to advertising for bids, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. So move, Mr. Dehart. Second, Dr. Traha. Any public comments? Mr. Dehart? Dr. Traha? Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 10, the committee recommends that the board issue a notice to proceed as per contractual agreement to Duplantis Design Group, APC, for plans and specification for buildings repairs at Evergreen Junior High. Funds to be derived from FEMA reimbursement funds, authorize advertising of bids, direct that any major projects be reported to BFT committee prior to advertising for bids, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto.
So moved.
So move, Ms. Benoit, second. Mr. DeHart, any public comments? Ms. Benoit? Mr. DeHart, any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 11, the committee recommends that the board issue a notice to proceed as per contractual agreement to Vergis Rome Architects for plans and specifications for the roof repair replacement project at Houma Junior High. Funds to be derived from FEMA reimbursement funds, authorize the advertising of bids, direct that any major project changes be reported to the BFT committee prior to advertising for bids, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. So moved, Mr. Harding. Second, Ms. Benoit. Any public comments? Mr. Harding? Ms. Benoit? Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 12, the committee recommends that the board issue a notice to proceed as per contractual agreement to Vergis Rome Architects for plans and specification for buildings repairs at Houma Junior High. Funds to be derived from FEMA reimbursement funds. Authorize the advertising of bids. Direct that any major project changes be reported to the BFT committee prior to advertising for bids, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. So move, Mr. DeHart. Second, Ms. Benoit. Any public comments? Mr. DeHart? Ms. Benoit? Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. We're almost halfway through. Bear with us. Recommendation number 13, the committee recommends that the board issue a notice to proceed as per contractual agreement to Vergis Rome Architects for plans and specifications for building repairs at Terrebonne High School. Funds to be derived from FEMA reimbursement funds, authorize the advertising of bids, direct that any major project changes be reported to the BFT committee prior to advertising for bids, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto.
So moved.
So move, Ms. Benoit. Second, Mr. DeHart. Any public comments? Ms. Benoit? Mr. DeHart, any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 14, the committee recommends that the board issue a notice to proceed as per contractual agreement to Merlin Lered, AIA, CEFP, the Merlin Group, LTD, for plans and specifications for building repairs at South Down Elementary School and Grand Caillou Middle School. Funds to be derived from FEMA reimbursement funds. Authorize the advertising of bids. Direct that any major project changes be reported to the BFT committee prior to advertising for bids, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. So move, Mr. DeHart.
Second.
Second, Ms. Benoit. Any public comments? Mr. DeHart? Ms. Benoit? Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 15, the committee recommends that the board issue a notice to proceed as per contractual agreement to Grow Flores Positary LLC for plans and specifications for building repairs at Bayou Black Elementary School. Funds to be derived from FEMA reimbursement funds. Authorize the advertising of bids. Direct that any major project changes be reported to the BFT committee prior to advertising for bids, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. So move, Mr. DeHart. Second, Ms. Benoit. Any public comments? Mr. DeHart? Ms. Benoit?
I have one question. After going through half of these and getting another 15 of them before we
Yes, ma'am.
finish, is there any way that we can change
Consolidate.
this to have some sort of consent agenda for notices to proceed, or like type
That's what I had asked.
recommendations instead
someone.
of reading? I mean,
Each and
you are
every
reading
one.
a lot of the same verbiage over and
I
over and
am.
over again, and it's just the name of the school that is changing, or the architect. And I don't see why we
We
can't have a
can't group
list.
them, yeah.
a
I had asked
group of
somebody that, I don't remember who it
And
was.
can't we pull, if we have any objections, if anybody has objections to any one particular school or architect, recommendation, we could pull that and just vote on that, but in the meantime, vote
I agree
on-
with you, totally, because it's
How do we
tiring.
go about that?
Um,
Attorney?
Yeah.
That's what we get paid them
You
big
can
bucks for.
definitely take a look into it. I mean, I imagine you can make one long recommendation of notice to proceed for, you know, the following school, you know, and have the language in there, and for the following schools, and list them, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, through
Yeah.
20, or whatever the case may be, and you can vote on that, and if there's an objection to one,
Then we can specify.
or it might have to be an amendment to the recommendation. So it's just, you know, spitballing off the top of my head here.
Yeah.
But I would imagine there would be a couple things we could try, you know, can try.
Yeah.
I mean, for efficiency, it
Right.
just makes
Yeah,
sense
because you just-
instead of,
yeah,
you know,
it takes you
and
20,
saving
30
Mr.
minutes.
Voisin's voice.
Yeah.
you know.
I love you.
No, I agree,
Thank
'cause
you.
it's a lot. and it's the thing.
Well, would we have to make a policy like that in order to create an agenda that looked like that, or can we just do it?
I think that you would be, you know, when you're doing the agenda meeting for at this particular committee meeting, the building one, you know, you put them on there to discuss.
So it's up to the chair.
Yeah.
You heard that, Mr. Voisin?
I'm sorry, I was,
Uh-huh.
So,
It would be up to the chair to do that.
oh, heck, yeah.
so,
I'd asked somebody and they
We
told me
can
no at the time, but maybe we could look at
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah, I think it's important because especially with what we're dealing with right now.
And this
it
is
might
going to be
not
continuous for months.
Yeah,
Yes.
it might not be something that would last for years to come, but
Right, right.
for right now, dealing with buildings and
Mhm.
it just makes
Yeah.
sense.
especially these notices and the ad. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. DeHart, yes.
I'd like to assist in maybe coming up with a solution. You got many architects, so you could have
Group 'em.
possibly, I'm just using an example, 8 architects and have every project that each
Yeah.
architect have. But that would have to be done through the committee process to pass on to the full
To the-
board.
to the board.
That way nothing's left out.
Yeah,
Because
and
we
I think
got-
that's a good point, that, you know, we can.
Do it by architect.
But
Yeah.
There's probably special groupings that can be made that
Yeah.
can take 5 or 6 of them out, and then, so you may have 3 instead of
Right.
25.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
okay, so we can work on
The
that.
amount of damages all of the schools have.
Right.
Every one of them's got some attention needed, so it's not about just the school, the architect who was assigned for it, or the project managers, or vice versa, so that would ease up the situation that they're trying to come.
Yes.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you, Ms. Benoit and Mr. DeHart. Awesome ideas. All right.
Mr. Voisin.
No, no, that's all right. No, go ahead.
Just to kind of inform members of the board, if you recall, Finance Committee, I used to have 2 agenda items at the end of the agenda every month. One was the monthly budget to actual comparison report. The other one was the sales tax collection report. 2 years ago, Ms. Bro and I decided to just do that as one agenda item so we wouldn't have to call her up, come back, call her up, and come back. Nobody ever noticed. So, and I know that the idea that you're talking about with combining motions, it can be done. I've been on boards where they adopt the committee report and pass the report, as well as, and then if there's any discussion for any particular one, the board member can request that it be pulled to be discussed independently. So it's a good idea.
I think that's called a consent agenda.
Yes, it is. That's exactly what it is.
Good. All right, thank you. Any other board members on that? Did it pass? Did I
Yes.
finish it? Where was I? Any board members? And
Yeah.
then that's right. Okay, so any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. All right. We're definitely going to look into that. We definitely try to have that for next time. Recommendation number 16. The committee recommends that the board issue a notice to proceed as per contractual agreement to Grow Flores Positary LLC for plans and specifications for the roof repair replacement project at H.L. Bourgeois High School. Funds to be derived from FEMA reimbursement funds, authorize the advertising of bids, direct that any major project changes be reported to the BFT committee prior to advertising for bids, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. So moved, Ms. Benoit. Second, Mr. Dehart. Any public comments? Ms. Benoit? Mr. Dehart? Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 17, the committee recommends that the board issue a notice to proceed as per contractual agreement to Duplantis Design Group, APC, for plans and specifications for the roof repair replacement project at Schriever Elementary School. Funds to be derived from FEMA reimbursement funds. Authorize the advertising of bids. Direct that any major project changes be reported to the BFT committee prior to advertising for bids, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. So moved, Mr. Dehart. Second, Ms. Benoit. Public comments? Mr. Dehart?
No,
Ms.
sir.
Benoit? Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 18, the committee recommends that the board issue a notice to proceed as per contractual agreement to Duplantis Design Group, APC, for plans and specifications for a roof repair replacement project at Lisa Park Elementary School. Funds to be derived from FEMA reimbursement funds. Authorize the advertising of bids. Direct that any major project changes be reported to the BFT committee prior to advertising for bids, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. So move, Ms. Benoit. Second, Mr. Dehart. Public comments? Ms. Benoit?
No, sir.
Mr. Dehart?
No, sir.
Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 19, the committee recommends that the board issue a notice to proceed as per contractual agreement to Duplantis Design Group, APC, for plans and specifications for the roof repair replacement project at Oakshire Elementary School. Funds to be derived from FEMA reimbursement funds. Authorize the advertising of bids. Direct that any major project changes be reported to the BFT committee prior to the advertising for bids, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. So moved. Ms. Benoit, second. Mr. Dehart, any public comments? Ms. Benoit?
No, sir.
Mr. Dehart?
No, sir.
Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 20, the committee recommends that the board issue a notice to proceed as per contractual agreement to Vergis Rome Architects for plans and specifications for the roof repair replacement project at the Fletcher Building. Funds to be derived from FEMA reimbursement funds. Authorize the advertising of bids. Direct that any major projects be reported to the BFT committee prior to advertising for bids, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. So move, Ms. Benoit. Second, Mr. Dehart. Any public comments? Ms. Benoit?
No, sir.
Mr. Dehart?
No.
Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 21, the committee recommends that the board issue a notice to proceed as per contractual agreement to Vergis Rome Architects for plans and specifications for building repairs at the Fletcher Building. Funds to be derived from FEMA reimbursement funds. Authorize the advertising of bids. Direct that any major project changes be reported to the BFT committee prior to advertising for bids, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. So move, Mr. Dehart. Second, Ms. Benoit. Any public comments? Mr. Dehart?
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I'd like to make one comment. Either you as chair or the superintendent can let us know, the repairs on this building, on the inside, are they gonna fix just the damaged stuff, or are they gonna change it for whatever we possibly gonna use down the road? You follow me? I don't wanna do the work double. You
Right, right,
follow
right,
what I'm
yeah.
saying?
And I think we had
Sheet
spoke
rock
about that at the
damaged
committee last
ceiling
time.
tile.
I'm sorry.
I never heard anything of that nature. I didn't know if they was gonna just change ceiling tiles or,
Yeah.
you know,
No, I think what was mentioned at the committee,
okay.
yeah, for now, right.
That's been clarified.
Till we decide what we're gonna do with it,
That's all.
correct? Yeah,
I just wanna make sure we're not spending taxpayers' money twice.
absolutely.
Thank
Good
you.
question, Mr. Dehart. Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 22, the committee recommends that the board issue a notice to proceed as per contractual agreement to Merlin Lee Red, ACEFP, the Merlin Group LTD, for plans and specifications for the roof repair replacement project at South Terrebonne High School. Funds to be derived from FEMA reimbursement funds. Authorize advertising of bids. Direct that any major project changes be reported to the BFT committee prior to advertising for bids, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto.
So moved.
So moved, Dr. Traha. Second, Ms. Benoit. Any public comments? Dr. Traha?
No, sir.
Ms. Benoit? Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 23, the committee recommends that the board issue a notice to proceed as per contractual agreement to Merlin Lerat, the Merlin Group, for plans and specifications for repairs to athletic facilities at South Terrebonne High School. Funds to be derived from FEMA reimbursement funds. Authorize advertising of bids. Direct that any major project changes be reported to the Buildings, Food Service, and Transportation Committee, I forgot to say, prior to advertising for bids, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. So moved, Dr. Trahan, second, Ms. Benoit. Any public comments? Dr. Trahan?
No, sir.
Ms. Benoit? Any other board members? Any objections? Okay. Hearing none, motion passes. Number 24, recommendation 24, the committee recommends the board accept the lowest bids received meeting all specifications on lawn care services from the following 12 lawn care groups for a period of 5 years from September 1, 2022 to August 31, 2027. Funds to be derived from the general fund, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto,
So moved.
pending board attorney review and approval. Moved by Mr. DeHart, second, Mr. Ford. Any public comments? Mr. DeHart?
I'd like to request one thing. I'd like to know which schools are in group 1, 2, 3. That's not too much work, and I'm just saying, you could get a spreadsheet whenever
Yes.
bids are put out, and we never got any spreadsheet on that. So in the
So you want a breakdown
Yes, sir.
of,
That way, whenever we get a concern from our constituency, or somebody else is calling you up and saying, you know, about different things about the grass cutting, we would know exactly who it is and what area. It would help us, help the public,
right,
okay?
right. Good idea.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Mr. Ford? Yes, sir.
I do have a few comments. First, I want to handle a logistical issue. Between groups 2 and 3, or actually it's group 3 that's in question, they have the address for Outdoor Image and Design, but they have Cooley Services LLC and Montague, Louisiana, so there's an error. So instead of 406 Forest Boulevard, if this is being granted to Cooley Services, then it needs to be 956 Aragon Road. So that's the first thing that I picked up on. The other thing, I did have a question about how the groups were created, or how I guess, how the bids were sent out, and Mr. DeHart touched on that. Looking at the prices, pretty much everything seems to be close to the same size or the same price, except there's a couple of them that are a little bit larger than the others. But I wanted to know as well how the groups were comprised, and, you know, if there were different sizes, location, and special circumstances. The other thing is, I don't feel comfortable with the 5-year contract unless, and it's not in there, unless the 5-year contract is a set price for all 5 years, no matter if the fuel cost goes up or not, right? So that's,
Yeah, you're
okay.
locked in.
So that actually benefits us to hold it for 5 years. And then there have been some concerns that were brought to my attention about one of the vendors. I'm not going to mention them here. I really should have brought it up in committee. I had the same concern then. But one of these vendors has been notorious for sort of not breaking the rules, but not necessarily following them either, leaving a few things left to be desired, and it's been brought to my attention. So we've discussed it, a few of us, but I never had a chance to bring it up in committee. This agenda item came up in that long committee meeting, and we were just, you know, it just
Right,
wasn't,
right, yes.
the time wasn't there for us to discuss.
Well, if they don't follow a contract, it seems
Yeah.
like they're breaking the contract. So we'd have to
So-
look into it and make sure they're specific to, you know, that they're doing what say they're doing for what we're paying them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So outside of this agenda item, I will address that issue, and I do want, you know, someone to go through and kind of do an investigation.
Okay.
So I just wanted to bring that up because it was brought to my attention, and I want to make sure I do my due diligence.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ford. Ms. Benoit?
I think Mr. Ford brings up a good point, and I do notice on the list of vendors, it does have this under the price, 5-year contract price, which gives us the impression that this is the price each year for 5 years. It's not stated in the recommendation. it is in the contract that it's not going up?
Right.
Okay, as long as it's there. I didn't know if we had to address that or not. Okay.
Thank you, Ms.
And
Pitts.
Mr. Ford, that's a good point, and I think they'll have to meet our expectations, that's
Yeah.
the contract. If not, we'll take action as needed.
Yeah,
Good
thank
point.
you.
Thank you, board members. Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. All I have is one left? Oh, I'm disappointed. All right, recommendation number 25. The committee recommends that the board accept the lowest bid received, meeting all specifications on HVAC, filter supplies, and delivery services from Acadiana Filter Services, Inc., 2505 Jane Street, New Iberia, Louisiana, 70563, for a period of 5 years from July 1, 2022 to June 30, 2027. So move, Mr. DeHart, second, Ms. Benoit. Any public comments? Mr. DeHart?
Nothing on this item, but before you turn the mic back to the president, I'd like to make a request later.
Yes, sir. Ms. Benoit?
Yes.
Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Mr. DeHart? Yeah.
I'd like to make a request for the next Building and Sites Committee to have, we got Grand Kai Elementary, that we never heard anything yet, and I know it takes certain stages. SEC and LaCache, and I know we discussed those schools, but nothing, they're developing certain procedures, because the rest of it, how do you say that? Lights green, get to work. The supplies are there. Got a lot of work to do. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Any other board members? Yes, sir, Mr. Ford.
Just to follow up what Roger Dale said, I was contacted by someone earlier this week about the status of Grand Kai Elementary. And I did have to clear up that there is only one Grand Kai Elementary, there's not an upper and lower, but that is what they're asking for. That's what people are asking about, and we kind of want to know what's the status of it. So I told them at this time, I don't think anything is solidified, and I think, I'm not remembering if that's Volkert or Hammerman and Gaynor, but I know at some point, we're still waiting on them to get us that assessment.
That report,
It's
yeah.
it's still in the waiting phase, that one, that's why we didn't.
Okay.
It's not a very good answer, but
Well,
that's the answer.
I answered it truthfully, and that's what I
Yes.
said, so,
Yes, you were right on.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Any other board members?
I go-
Okay, therefore, no further business to come before the BFT committee. The meeting was adjourned at 6:15. I turn the meeting back over to our awesome president, Mr. Harding.
Thank you, Mr. Vizan. Item 8B, Finance, Insurance, and Section 16 Land Committee, Mr. Clyde Hamner.
Dear members of the board, the Finance, Insurance, and Section 16 Lands Committee met at 5 p.m. on Monday, June 27, 2022, in the boardroom of the school board office. The following members present: myself, Chairman, Mr. Michael Lagarde, Vice Chairman, and Ms. Stacy Soleil, Committee Member. Also in attendance were Ms. Debbie Benoit, Mr. Matt Ford, Mr. Roger DeHart, Dr. Maybelle Trahan, Superintendent-elect Bubba Angeron, and actually, that needs to be corrected. It was Superintendent Bubba Angeron, and members of the staff. The meeting was called to order. Ms. Bro presented to the committee recommendation number 1, where the committee recommends that the board extend the fiscal agent agreement with Regions Bank for a 1-year period beginning July 1, 2022, and terminating June 30th, 2023, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Harding, seconded by Mr. Voisin. Any members of the public wish to address the motion? Mr. Harding.
No, sir.
Mr. Voisin. Any other members of the board? Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes. Recommendation number 2, the committee recommends that the board accept the proposal from Mercer Consumer for student nurse professional liability insurance with limits of $1 million with a $3 million aggregate per any one student with an annual premium of approximately $1,045.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Dehart, seconded by Mr.
Lagarde.
Lagarde. Did I get that right?
I think he made the motion. I'll
Okay.
second it.
Mr. Lagarde moved, Mr. Dehart seconded.
That was it.
Any members of the public wish to address this motion? Mr. Lagarde.
No, sir.
Mr. Dehart.
No, sir.
Any members of the board? Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes. The committee, recommendation number 3, the committee recommends that the board accept the highest bid received, meeting all specifications, from Everett Abear, 2010 Blue Haven Drive, New Iberia, Louisiana, for hunting and trapping lease on Section 16, Township 17 South, Range 13 East, in the amount of $7,000 for a 5-year period beginning August 1st, 2022 through July 31st, 2027, allowing the Purchases Department to re-advertise those sections where no bid was received in those sections in which leases were surrendered, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. Moved by Mr. Dehart, seconded by Mr. Lagarde. Any members of the public wish to address this motion? Mr. Dehart.
No, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Lagarde.
No, sir.
Any other members of the board? Any objection to the motion? Hearing no objection, the motion passes. Recommendation number 4, the committee recommends that the board reject the bid received from Rick Wiley, 129 Autumn Ridge Drive, Thibodaux, on Section 16, Township 20 South, Range 14 East, due to noncompliance.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Lagarde, seconded by Dr. Trahan. Any members of the public wish to address this motion? Mr. Lagarde?
No, sir.
Dr. Trahan? Any other members of the board? Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes. Recommendation number 5, the committee recommends that the board authorize the purchasing department to advertise for bids on communicator folders. Moved by Mr. Lagarde, seconded by Dr. Trahan. Any members of the public wish to address this exciting motion? Mr. Lagarde,
No, sir.
or Dr. Trahan. Any other members of the board? Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes. Oh, okay. Recommendation number 6, the committee recommends that the board adopt the attached 2021-2022 original budget for the special revenue funds.
So
Moved
moved.
by Mr. Lagarde, seconded by
Second.
Mr. Harding. Any members of the public wish to address this? Mr. Lagarde.
No, sir.
Mr. Harding.
No, sir.
Any other member of the board? Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes. Recommendation number 7, the committee recommends that the board adopt the following 2021-2022 revised budgets for the special revenue funds. Moved by Mr. Harding, seconded by Ms. Benoit. Any members of the public wish to address the motion? Mr. Harding?
No, sir.
Ms. Benoit?
No, sir.
Any other members of the board? Any objection to the motion? Hearing no objection, the motion passes. Recommendation number 8, the committee recommends that the board adopt as presented the final 2021-2022 budgets for the designated funds below, that the board allow the final budgets for these funds be deemed as variable budgets with estimated revenues set equal to actual revenues, provided that such revenues do not exceed those approved by the board and/or state or federal regulatory authorities, and further that the final budget for appropriations be set equal to amounts actually expended, provided that such expenditures do not exceed those approved by the board and/or state or federal regulatory authorities. Moved by Mr. Lagarde, seconded by,
Second.
I'll second it.
okay, Ms. Benoit. Okay. Any members of the public wish to address this motion? Mr. Lagarde?
No, sir.
Ms. Benoit?
No, sir.
Any other members of the board? Mr. Dehart?
Have we received any type of FEMA funding for our buildings yet, or insurance monies yet? Is it in here, or have we received any yet?
Ms. Bro?
Insurance, yes. FEMA,
Okay,
FEMA, I don't know how much.
that's okay. I just want to know if we received some. Okay, thank you. That's all I want to know. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. DeHart. Thank you, Ms. Bro. Any objection to this motion? Hearing none, the motion passes. Then Ms. Bro presented information on the monthly budget to actual and sales tax collection reports. There be no further business come before the Finance, Insurance, Section 16 Lands Committee. The meeting adjourned. Mr. Harding, I turn the meeting back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Hamler. Item 8C, Executive Committee, Dr. Trahan.
Thank you, Mr. Harding. The Executive Committee met immediately following the 5 p.m. Finance, Insurance, and Section 16 Lands Committee meeting on Monday, June 27, 2022, in the boardroom of the School Board office with the following members present: myself, Vice President, and Mr. Michael Lagarde, member. Mr. Gregory Harding was absent. Also in attendance was Mr. Hamner, Ms. Benoit, Mr. Matthew Ford, Mr. Roger Dale DeHart, Ms. Soleil, Superintendent-elect Bubba Ogeron, and members of his staff. The meeting was called to order. The invoices were examined and authorized for payment for the current month, including supplemental payroll and travel expenses. There were no committee concerns. Do I have a motion to accept the report?
So moved.
A second.
Thank you. Any public comments? Mr. Lagarde? Ms. Benoit?
No, sir.
Any other board members? Any objections? None heard, so ordered. I return the meeting to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Trahan. Item 8D, Education, Technology, and Policy Committee, Ms. Debbie Benoit.
Thank you, Mr. Harding. The Education, Technology, and Policy Committee met immediately following the other meetings on Monday, June 27th in the boardroom. Present were myself, Mr. Matthew Ford as vice chair, and Dr. Maybelle Trahan as member. Also in attendance were Mr. Clyde Hamner, Mr. Roger Dale DeHart, Mr. Michael Lagarde, Ms. Stacy Soleil, Superintendent-elect Bubba Ogeron, and members of the staff. First recommendation is that the board approve as presented revised policy file E-3.2A, special use of school buses. Moved by Mr. Harding, was that, did I hear you?
I think it.
Oh, you, I'm sorry. Moved by Mr. Borzan, second by Dr. Trahan. Any public comment? Mr. Borzan? Dr. Trahan? Any board members? Any objections? Hearing none, so moved. Second recommendation, the committee recommends that the board approve as presented revised policy file F-11.4 sick leave. Moved by Mr. Borzan, second by Mr. DeHart. Any public comment? I'd like Mr. Falls to come to the speaker before we go further with asking the board any questions. He has prepared for us, and I think that it's at your desk, a spreadsheet, and he would like to add information to the board's concern about any of the sick leave recommendation.
Would we like to start with any questions about it, or?
You can just start, and if we have questions, we'll ask you. Thank
Okay.
you.
So just based on this school year, if we look at the total, there's 48 retirees this year that have enough days or that add to the 20 additional rule. So of the 48 that had additional days to the original 25 severance, 14 are in the below teachers category. And below teachers, it's school food service technicians, secretaries, custodians, paraprofessionals, maintenance department, bus attendants, bus drivers. So 14 of those employees totaled 14.71%. So if we were to enact the additional 20-day rule, that would have cost the district $34,228 and some change. The next category is teachers. For this school year, 30 teachers had an additional amount of days, so that total was $168,000 and some change. That was 72.29% of the employees. And then school administrators, that was principals or assistant principals. There were 3 this school year at 10.14%, which totaled $23,593.20. And then there was 1 central office management staff, and that was $6,673, and that was for 2.87%. So these are the employees who qualified for up to 20 additional days. So the chart was created, if the employee only had 5 additional days, I only added in 5 days. So this is an actual number had this policy been enacted for this past fiscal year.
And then you have additional ones that are based on basically the same premise. If they would have gotten an extra 20 days, these dollar amounts would be the amounts that they would have.
Right, so in the total, are you referring to the total category?
Right.
Right, so if we had enacted the 20 rule this year, it would cost the district $232,764.58 to pay all of those additional 20 days, or up to 20 days in some cases.
Repeat that, please.
$232,764.58.
And that's for this school year.
That would
but-
be for the 2021-20, the school year that just passed.
Right.
So 22 fiscal year.
But you've gone back 3 years on this.
I've gone back 3 additional years
And
just to
my
give
question
some
was,
comparison.
you added the 20 days to those other years?
Correct. I just suppose the 20-year rule would have been in place to get those
Okay.
numbers.
Question?
Correct.
Yes, yes.
The
Dr.
amount cost in dollars that you're listing here, is that for the 20 additional days or for all 45?
Just the 20 additional.
Just the 20 additional?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. DeHart?
Mr. Leonard, if this passes tonight, as we have it written, that would cover people who retired already, or it's gonna, from this day going forward?
So
I don't know
that's
if you
not,
could go back.
that's, I guess, not a question for me to answer. That would be,
Mr. Attorney?
or how its policy would
If
be
we,
written.
whenever we have policies, usually it's the day you approve a policy going forward, not approving a policy and going back. I'm just asking a hypothetical question.
Then I have to take a look at it and see exactly what it says, and that's not something I've looked at yet, but typically it would be going forward.
That's what I always thought, you know, on anything, payment of salaries or whatever. That's all I have right now.
Right, so in that case, the 2021-22 would just be for reference as well, since we're just starting this fiscal year.
Right now, it starts today going forward, not yesterday going back.
Correct. So my top year would just be for reference, as, since it's passed, right?
Yes, Mr. Ford?
Okay. There's a whole lot of stuff to unravel here, so just bear with me.
Yes, sir.
First, I did some averages per person per year. So 2018, 2019 was $3,863.87 average number of retirees versus the cost. 2019, 2020 was $37.7166. And these numbers are sort of arbitrary, but I'm going to get to my point. 2020, 21 was $4,089.67, and then 2021, 2022 jumps up to $4,849.26. So there's a disparity between those, and it seems to be increasing every year. So just following a trend, it's kind of a bad idea for us to stick our foot in something like this, because we may not get that stink off of it. But here's the other thing. There seems to be some information missing, and you can clarify this for me.
Yes, sir.
This year, 2022, 2021, 2022, our superintendent retired. Is his information included in this?
He is not in this information because he retired July 1st. So he would technically be in this current fiscal year of 22-23.
So next year, 22, 23, if we were to approve this, this number would be astronomically higher. Maybe not so much as overall, but definitely the per person, because we're talking about a substantial amount of money for that one particular person.
Yeah, it could cause that category to go up. Correct.
Now, I know this isn't your area of expertise, and we asked the board attorney a minute ago, but over the last couple of weeks, when we've been talking about this, the word retroactive has been thrown around. So I need some clarification before I can vote yea or nay. Now, the other concern I have is, we did table this to the July meeting because I wanted that information, and we wanted to make sure that we knew that if it was retroactive or if it's from this day forward. So I just have concerns all over the place with this item. So I'd like to move that we table this item until the August board meeting. If I can get a second.
So moved.
Well, can we still be in discussion about this?
Not if it's moved to table and it's tabled.
So just from where you are in the process, you called them up before really.
Before I called on the
Well,
movers.
Just go through it, and then when it gets to, you did first and second, right? When it gets to, make the.
Okay.
Make the motion.
Okay, so I had Mr. Voisin move it. Okay. Any questions, Dr. Trahan?
I just wanted to, maybe on the recommendation, we should add to the end, pending review and approval by the board attorney.
So continue with yours, you would want to add that, okay? All right, so we have a move by you, a second, and
By Mr.
I
DeHart.
was the second.
you were the second.
Yeah.
Yes.
Roger Dale, okay, I'm sorry. Mr. DeHart, do you have any comment about,
No, add an attorney review, that's fine.
okay, all
Did we
right.
ask for public?
No, you didn't ask for public.
I asked for public first, and
Yeah.
then I called,
Okay.
right,
Yeah, you're right.
right.
Thank
So, do we vote on it right now?
Well, I guess what's.
So we have the first recommendation that has been added, this board attorney review pending approval.
Well, then I would.
It's still in discussion, so in my piece on discussion, I'll move to table it until August board meeting.
And I seconded it.
All right, so now you have that motion would be. now
Intervening.
Consider.
Pending with the second, call for public on that.
Okay.
Discussion.
All
and then
right.
vote on that.
Okay, so do I have any public comment? Mr. Ford, do you have any other comments?
No, look, Mr. Foss, I'm really appreciative of the information you gave us, because that's actually what I was asking for 2 months ago. But there's still a lot of questions that are unanswered, and if we're gonna make this decision, in the best interest of our constituency and our public, especially when it comes to a financial matter, which is, insignificant to some of us, it may seem like a little bit amount of money, but to the general public, $262,000 is a lot of money.
Yes, sir.
That's more than most people's mortgages on their house. So I'd like to push it back a little bit longer until we can get a little more information. That's it.
Mr. Hamlin, do you have any comments?
Not on the motion to table.
Okay.
Ms. Benoit?
Yes.
Just for clarification, he's asking to push it to August, the August committee or August?
August board meeting.
Board meeting, okay,
Straight to the board.
to the board.
Yeah, okay. So any other board members have any comment about this substitute motion? Yes, Mr. Hart?
Yeah, I'm just, like I said, this is a decision, I kind of more like can go either way on it. I guess my concern is if there's more questions that need to be answered, I guess we need to get the answer to the questions. I'm just trying to understand where Mr. Ford, no disrespect to what you're saying about there's more questions that need to be answered. I'm just trying to find out what more questions that need to be answered that we can't get tonight.
Thank you. And I will add to that this is not a new item and a new issue. We've been toiling with this for 2 months now. So if there's any questions that have not been answered that board members have concerns about, I think, that should have been done before we got to this point. I think we tried to get all concerns that were previous to these discussions answered during the interims of these different committee and board meetings. And so I feel like everything's been answered, but Mr. Ford, what other particular
Ironically,
things?
we did get to a point that we had moved this, pushed it back to July committee meetings because there were questions that weren't answered. One of which is whether or not this is going to be retroactive. I can't decide yes or no if it's going to be something that I'm going to vote on behalf of my constituency, if I don't know if it's going to affect them, you know, as far as this year or just next year. Now, the other thing that I did have a concern about was considering anyone who is retiring this year, 2021, 2022. Just perhaps, if we were to discuss this last year at this time, would they have behaved differently? Would their attendance have been any different this year, knowing that they were retiring, but they still had those 20 days that they could bank to get reimbursed for, or to get paid for? Or would they still have taken the time off that they took, whether as a teacher, as an administrator, as a central office management staff? What would have changed? So that goes into the argument of whether or not it should be retroactive. By all means, I don't see a problem with this if we take it and we say, this is going to be the policy from here on out. Anyone hired after July 1st or anyone that's beginning the process of retirement after July 1st, then they know this is what they're getting into. Next year, I'm going to retire. I can bank those 20 extra days that I have, and I don't have to take that time off so I don't lose anything. I'm okay with that. I think that's a good policy. I think it's an incentive for employees to stick around and do the best they can throughout the year. My problem with it is we all know where the motivation is coming from to do this at this time. This should have been discussed a lot sooner if we were going to make it retroactive. So that question needs to be answered. Now, we can dictate in the recommendation that it's not retroactive, that it is effective July 5th, 2022 from here on out. We can do that. But that needs to be corrected as well before I vote for this item.
All right, so, July, I think we're talking about a new fiscal year, July 1, although I do feel somewhat concerned about the ones that just retired June 3rd, because I feel like if we were down the road in December making this policy, then we're 6 months away from that, and that doesn't seem, as concerning to me, because it's 6 months away. But here we're making a policy just days away from people retiring in June 3rd. I feel like they should be included. But again, we need board, I think, attorney approval that we can do that as of June 3rd. Or if we have to do it as of July 1st, as you said, going forward in this new fiscal year, which is the new fiscal year for the district, I don't see any reason why we couldn't do that if that. So I don't know if we make the policy where it is either June 3rd or July 1, depending on what the attorneys tell us. That's my thoughts about it. But if there's no other comment, do you have a comment?
I'm just going to make a comment, and I'm just speaking for myself. All the policy changes I've witnessed, whenever you made it that night, it went from that day going forward, regardless of who's retiring when or who's the advantage or disadvantage. That's what I remember years past.
Yeah, and I think that would probably be right, unless the policy language in there said something otherwise. And, I haven't really reviewed this policy and been asked to, but I noticed it's 11 pages. I can't imagine if you're asking about all 11 pages.
It's just the numbers to change.
From the 25 to the 45, like that language in the policy, which is basically at the basic variant. And with the way the policy reads, it was upon retirement or upon entering into drop, right?
Right.
So if the policy went into effect today and someone retired tomorrow, it would apply to that person. It would not apply to someone that's already retired. Because that policy wouldn't have been in effect at the time they retired. So if you want to have it, if people who
To the recommendation or policy? Policy.
Yeah.
Add some language to the policy to do something different, you mean?
It seems,
Yeah.
it seems as though the recommendation would be where the correction would be,
Because-
because the policy's set. I don't think that's a policy thing.
Right.
Yeah, because the policy says like on page 46, payment upon retirement or death. Upon the retirement of any employee or upon the employee entering drop or upon the employee's death. So upon the retirement will be the day that they retire. So if they retired already, this policy wasn't in effect. So I would think to be the safest way, you may want to put, you maybe need to add some language in there upon the retirement of any employee.
Beginning,
And we could give it to, or anyone who retired as of whatever day it was going to be, July 1st, 2022. You
Okay.
may want to put something in that.
okay.
So,
All right, well, before we discuss that, go
Well,
ahead.
with that clarification, I'd like to pull my recommendation to table it, and I'd like to go ahead and move forward with
Roll call vote.
With the policy, with the roll call vote, but again, I'm still confused. I think we need to put a date in there in this recommendation.
so you don't, it depends on what you want. I mean, if you pass this today, July 5th, the policy will go into effect today, July 5th. And so anyone who retires
That way
today,
forward.
moving forward would be, if your intention is to have people who retired in the past month or something, I don't know anything about retirement, how it works. So just based off of the comments that I heard, I think we can add language to the recommendation.
Okay.
And add to the policy.
So the recommendation is from Dr. Trahan, the original recommendation. And you, well, no, he removed his, so it goes back to the original.
The original recommendation doesn't have a date.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Do you want to add a date because you've added under board review?
Well, I would feel comfortable with the date of July 1st,
July 1st, like this fiscal year?
with the new fiscal year.
So would you state that recommendation?
The committee recommends that the board approve the as presented revised policy file F11.4, sick leave, as of July, effective as of July 1st, 2022, pending review and approval by board attorney.
Okay, so we have this revision, and we need a second for the revision. We have a second by Mr. Voisin. Yes.
Okay, are we amending the original motion?
Yes.
So
that's
we
what-
have two people that made the motion already.
That's right.
To say as amended,
Okay.
we're not establishing a new recommendation.
No, it's not a new recommendation. Yeah. So we have an amended recommendation. You have, Mr. DeHart, you have something you have to say with this?
Whenever it's my turn after
Okay.
making a motion.
All right. So we can have a second from someone else.
Yes, it was second, you called the public.
Okay.
You did. It was
All right.
by Mr. Voisin, seconded by Mr. Dior.
Right.
Okay, as amended with Dr.
Dr.
Trahan's
Trahan.
effective as of July 1,
Mhm.
2022.
Mhm. Okay. Public comment
Pending review and approval. by
Pending
the
review and
board attorney.
approval by the board attorney.
by the board attorney, right. No public comment. Dr. Trahan? Any board members? Yes.
I'm not going to be redundant. If we approve what's being suggested, whether it's July 1st, 2nd, 3rd, whatever, and today's July the 5th, anybody that retired in August has the same rights to retire with this same policy. If we are approving a policy change and we're doing it tonight, it starts from tonight going forward. That's just my take on it.
Okay. Well, and you did see that if we put this date on it, it still depends on the attorney reviewing that. Okay. Mr. Ford?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I don't think it's going to get approval from the board attorney with the verbiage that was added, because it does essentially make it retroactive. And I think that's a bad idea, just like I said before. So, here we go again. I'd like to move to table this item until we can get clarification from our board attorney until the August board meeting.
Okay, moved by Mr. Ford, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hamner. Board, any public comment? Mr. Ford, any more?
No, I want to make sure we're doing things legally, and I don't think we can do that. And knowing a little bit about contractual law, I don't think this is a good idea.
Okay, Mr. Hamner.
Mr. Ford's hitting the nail right on the head. As y'all all well know, I am on the board of trustees for the Teachers Retirement System of Louisiana. Was in Baton Rouge today, and I specifically asked the question, can this policy be retroactive? The answer was an emphatic no. But given that, the attorney needs to verify that for this board. The other bit of information that I received today, because I kind of felt like it was going to go retroactive, and when something smells like a dead fish, it must be a dead fish. TRSL has Mr. Martin's retirement date as of June 30th. We found out tonight he switched it to July 1st. Did not know that. And I question the sincerity of why we're doing this now. I was going to vote for it because it seemed like a good thing for retirees going forward. As much as I've opposed it, the cost of it. But now that I see that games have been being played, and I wish my counterpart that is so vocal about unfairness was here tonight, but because he's so eloquent about pointing stuff out. I disappointed that our board would pull such trickery. Yeah, the cost, aside from that, the cost of $232,764.58, that money could be used for teachers returning to the classroom. It could be used as a signing bonus to get teachers to come to Terrebonne Parish. There's a plethora of ideas. It's not a whole lot of money per year, but total compensated absences, as I pointed out in the previous meeting, that are in the financial statements are going to increase from $6,675,000 and some change to $9,304,000. No, that's not going to all come out of the pot at once. A couple of $100,000 this year, a couple of $100,000 next year, but we still have to account for the $9 million. It's still money that's encumbered, and it's a liability for the school system. It's great that our school system, those of us that were sincere about why they wanted to do this, it's great that our district is moving in a direction to reward good employees. That's the wonderful thing about it. But the increase in cost doesn't justify it. It's more money out, and we're not replacing that money. It's not like the bonus that we give in December, where we can use ESSER funds when we have it, or excess sales tax money. It's an expensive demand, a proposition, and because of the expense, I'm going to vote against it tonight, or I'm going to vote to table it tonight, but in the future, unless I see that it's being done fairly I'm going to probably vote against it in the future, too. My heart's heavy because of the trickery that I suspect that went through all this. Mr. Chairman, I'm done.
Any other board members? Yes, Mr. DeHart.
Well, I'm not going to mention any names. You can read between the lines. It's not about any past employee. I like to treat everybody the same.
That's right.
Since I got on this board, all those superintendents, whenever their terms came up, or extensions, or raises for administration, was based upon performance in the classroom that we got done. And I'm happy to report, and I said this at another meeting before, our test scores used to be in the range of 40 and 50th out of 64 parishes. We're up there in the high 20s, sometimes 15. That's the kind of strides we've made in the past. Every one of those gentlemen up there and this young lady that's up there on that side that I served under, I contribute the leadership to them. I have no battles with anybody that's leaving, but I just cannot do anything retroactive. I want it going forward, not back. And it's no disappointment in me because somebody's name was mentioned earlier. I have nothing against that person or any other employees that decided to retire. I'm looking at the future. Terrebonne Parish in the state of Louisiana is low on teachers. The state has over 3,000 non-certified positions that was available 2 weeks ago in the news. I don't know which parish it is in, but I know what's happening in Terrebonne Parish. Everything we can do to market good educators coming here benefits those children. Whenever I have a budget over $200 million, I only spend what's in each category to keep the money in the classroom, to lease buses, to repair air conditioners. It all comes out of different funds. I've learned a lot in those days. And that's not going to change me if I decide tomorrow one of my best principals that I know decides to retire. It's not about one person, it's about the whole system. So I believe I am correct that it goes forward, but if any doubt, I'm not going to support it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Hart.
Thank you, Ms. Benoit. I guess maybe I'm kind of lost for words. Me as being a representative of District 2 and serving my district diligently for over the years that I have served. Me personally, I'm not aware of any trickery. Maybe I'm just left out in the dark when it comes down to that. I mean, I respect Mr. Hamlin's feeling about that, but I don't know anything about any trickery. Me personally, not involved with any type of trickery. Now, if there's any questions that need to be answered, I think Mr. Ford brought up some valid points in reference to maybe possibly bringing it back up again to get to attorney opinion to make sure that we can go forward, because I want to do it right. I don't want to do it wrong. I don't want to rush to do it. I want to make sure it's done right so that the public can understand that we're doing it for the right reason, not for the wrong reasons. And if there's any hidden agenda by anybody sitting up here, shame on you. Shame on you. Because there shouldn't be any hidden agenda for anybody sitting here up on this board trying to help somebody else out. So I am going to support Mr. Ford's idea of letting our attorney review it, bring it back up, and get it right.
Just so I'm clear, it's tabled to the next board meeting? Yes, sir. Regular board meeting, right? Okay, policy. We'll get you something soon on that. Thank you.
Okay. So, I'm confused. The item that we're voting on, is the substitute motion by Mr. Ford. Okay. Roll call vote.
All votes are in. One objection, Dr. Trahan. Absent, Mr. Lagarde and Ms. Solé. The substitute motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, and there being no further business, I turn the meeting back over to you, Mr. President.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. Item number 9, the superintendent agenda. Mr. Ogeron?
A1 is a banking and investment resolution. The president of the Carroll Parish School Board and the superintendent of schools are the parties authorized to jointly exercise signature authority over board demand deposit accounts. Whenever there is a change in the president and/or the superintendent, the board must grant the new officer's signatory power by adopting the pertinent resolution and providing new signature documents to its fiscal depositories. The recommendation is that the board adopt the following banking investment resolution.
Moved by Mr. DeHart.
Second.
By Ms. Benoit. Anyone in the audience like to discuss the recommendation? Mr. DeHart?
No, that's normal procedure.
Okay. Ms. Benoit?
No, sir.
Any board member? Any objection? Any so ordered.
Okay, item A2, personnel announcements and introductions. This is for information only. We haven't officially recognized the following positions, and I'd like to recognize them and just have them come up and just say hello real quick. Our Chief Academic Officer is Miss Sandra LaRose. Sandra, please come to the mic and just say hello. We thank you for all that you're doing already and getting things rolling, so thank you for the job before it really gets started, but you've done a great job so far. Thank you. Anything you'd like to share?
Oh, good evening. I just want to thank you all for supporting Mr. Orgeron in his decision and giving me this opportunity to continue to serve our district and now in the capacity of Chief Academic Officer. It's an honor. I've been in the district for, this will be year 33 that I'm starting, and I plan on being here a whole lot longer. And I appreciate this opportunity to continue to work with our kids to make our schools even better than they already are. So thank y'all.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
So that means you're gonna be here for 7 years, right?
At least I'm hoping to go longer.
Okay, just making sure.
Okay, newly appointed to a new position, Director of Human Resources, and very familiar to Dr. Deborah Yarbrough. Dr. Yarbrough, we thank you for what you and I have already kind of been working through already. So if you'd like just to say hello, I know most people know you, but just come say hello, please.
Good evening. I just want to thank you all for the opportunity to continue doing the job I've been doing for the last 15 years. Also, to thank you for the opportunity to have a second person in that department with all the things that the state is now putting on the districts. Another professional will mean that we can be even more effective than we are now. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. And our third position, newly appointed Director of Child Welfare and Attendance, Mr. Mark Tarbert.
Just as the ladies pointed out, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Orgeron, for the confidence in giving me the opportunity. I look forward to learning a new department, learning a new piece of the puzzle, and moving forward, working with a great department, with Corey and others in that umbrella. Looking forward to continuing to move the district forward.
Thank you, Mark. Next item, letter B1, leave of absence, leave without pay. Recommendation that the board approve the leave of absence without pay in accordance with policy file F11.10 for Angela email, school bus operator in the Transportation Department beginning June 16, 2022 through June 15, 2023. Medical.
Moved by Mr. Hamlin, second by Mr. DeHart. Anyone else like to discuss that issue? Mr. Hamlin?
No, sir.
Mr. DeHart?
No, sir, thank you.
Any board member of that injection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Okay, item C, personnel actions for the period of May 30th, 2022 through June 24th, 2022. That's provided for you, information only. The next one is matter bearing upon RFPs for construction material testing and inspection. Recommendation is the board authorize the purchasing department to advertise requests for proposal for construction materials testing and inspection in response to Hurricane Ida.
Moved by Mr. DeHart.
Second.
Second by Ms. Benoit. Anyone else like to discuss that recommendation? Mr. DeHart? Ms. Benoit? Any board member? That injection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Okay, and finally, number 4, we have parent appeals for student readmission. First student is student number 0150829. We are going to go into,
I'd like to move to go into executive session.
Moved by Mr. DeHart, second by Mr. Ford. Anyone else like to discuss that motion? Mr. DeHart? Mr. Ford? Any board member? That injection? Hearing none, so ordered. Okay, everybody need to clear the meeting room.